Okay. So, all right. So tonight we're going to be discussing chapter 7 of the Bhagavad-gītā, which is called Transcendental Knowledge. Right? Is that correct, Rangavati?
Knowledge of the absolute.
Knowledge of the absolute. Sorry, we already did transcendental knowledge. Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't have it up in front.
Seems like a short.
It's
30, 30, yeah.
30 verses, so we'll be able to get through it fairly quickly. So I thought what we'd do tonight, just for the record, is we'll chant the prayers in the introduction. So if you want to go to the introduction and chant with me, you're welcome to do this. It's in the introduction to the Bhagavad-gītā. If you have your Vedabase.io, you can go there, or if you have your actual Bhagavad-gītā, just go to the introduction, and we'll just chant the opening prayers. Okay? Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. Om Jnanatammarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swabhadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Bitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Shakan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Korano Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopiga Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Bhagavad-gītā. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, so chapter 7, knowledge of the absolute. All right, so we're going to read through this, and then you want to grab a piece of this here in a minute, Rangavati or Bhavananda, you're welcome to chant with me. So text 1, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Prita, how about practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Wow. So that's the end of all knowledge and of all seeking after knowledge that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad-gītā in another chapter. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Besides
just
these,
want to quickly interject. Brock's just turned us. Hi, Brock.
Hey, Brock.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. How you
Thank
doing?
you. Good to be here. Pardon my late incursion.
That's okay. We're just happy to have you. Better late than never, they say, right?
Yes, sir.
So we'll continue to read. There's 30 verses here. I'm going to read a few, and then you can read a few, Brock, and then Rangavati and Bhavananda can read a few.
We're on chapter 7.
Chapter 7, knowledge of the absolute.
Yeah.
And I'm on text 6.
Okay.
All created beings, there you go. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. I love that verse. Prabhupada quotes that verse. And the next verse too. So somebody pick it up from here. Text 8.
You want me to?
You
O
want to
son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound and ether and ability in man. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. O son of Pertha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me.
That verse is a very important verse, and Prabhupada quotes this verse a lot. Namang daskritano mudha prapadyate naradhama mayaya pritigyana asuram bhavam ashrita. So those persons who are, their knowledge has been stolen by illusion, and they partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender to me, Krishna says like that. So the thing in the purport I wanted to just mention quickly, Prabhupada says, how is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all of the leaders of ordinary men do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the all-powerful personality of Godhead? Mukti, or liberation from the laws of material nature, is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't these intelligent and hardworking leaders adopt this simple method? So Prabhupada asked this question. He says that the Gita answers this very frankly. The really learned leaders of society like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyas, Devala, Sita, Janaka, Prahlad, Bali, and later on Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya, many others, who are faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, etc., all surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, the all-power authority. Those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan or the path of the Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans, and consequently they complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. So I just thought this was a very good purport to stop at just for a second and read to y'all. Because if you look at society, the democracy that we're in right now, the lawmakers are constantly changing the law because apparently it didn't work, right? So they're trying new laws and they're trying new things. And when it doesn't work, it compounds the problem regularly. It's just like drug manufacturers. They manufacture all these synthetic drugs and they give you a drug to solve your problem. It just simply creates more problems. Or like chemicals that we put on the plants to kill the bugs or to, make the plants grow. We think, oh, well, that's a great solution. That if we do that, then that will solve the problems. We'll have more produce. But actually, no. It destroys the aquifer. It kills the fish. It kills the bugs. These things are necessary in God's creation to perpetuate our existence. So what they've done is they sprayed everything with Roundup. Now all the bees are dying. The bees are the ones that pollinate the plants. See what I'm saying? Like in Australia, I remember hearing about one time that what was it? Oh, the coyotes were coming and killing the animals, their beef cows or whatever it was, or their goats or sheep. So they decided to go on a war against the coyotes, or the dingoes they call, I think. So they just killed them all, down to the point of almost extinction. So guess what? They had a plague of rabbits that ate all the crops, or a plague of frogs. So they had children with ball bats out knocking these creatures in the head, killing them in a bloody disaster. So man-made solutions will never suffice. God-made solutions will always work. That's why it says those who are on this path, their mind is resolute and their aim is one. But those who are not on this path, their knowledge is many branched. So these people think they can outsmart God. But because material energy, nature is so powerful, it can resist the unauthorized plans of the atheist and baffle the knowledge of their so-called planning commissions or their democratic government, or even their atheistic dictators and monarchs. So if you don't find God first, if you don't understand who God is, you don't understand what God's purpose is, you don't understand what his message is, then you are in darkness. That's why when we started earlier, we chanted the prayer, Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya. The spiritual master brings this knowledge in the sun. So, Rangavati, would you pick it up from there? That would be number
Just
6.
had a question.
Yeah.
Because you were saying about how God has created everything perfectly, but we interfere and we do things that upset the balance. Now, how does that work with so-called global warming, climate change?
Well, I'm not a scientist, so I can't really speak to that because we don't know much history, recorded history, honestly. We go back a few hundred years that we've been keeping some records, but the world is literally billions of years old. So there's constant metamorphosis and change, and there's some natural shifting, like we see that the woolly mammoths or whatever were frozen in place, like all of a sudden, you know what I mean? So things like that may happen. The Earth may shift on its axis. What was once tropical may become an ice place to be. There may be ice ages that are regular. I'm not a scientist. I really can't speak to that. But I do know one simple thing, that if you put more particulate into the atmosphere, and we're doing it constantly with fossil fuel, factories, coal burning, just even particulate from construction or mining or whatever it is we're doing, that does add to a global warming effect, just like it creates a greenhouse gas situation. So my understanding is that our modern mechanized civilization is definitely affecting the water, the air, the atmosphere. Some of these things they have, like the freons and stuff, they ban now because they're destroying the ozone layer. So there's so many things that we've done that are just destructive. I mean, God's creation is perfect. Everything we seem to do to enhance our sense gratification, basically, creates an undue burden on the plants, the animals, the water, the sky, the air. Now you have to buy air purifiers. The air is so polluted. Now you have to buy water purifiers. The water is so polluted. Used to be you could just drink from it. So the point is that yes, I mean there probably is some effect from all of these things. There would have to be. We did some scientific um, things in class when I was in high school where we built this little biodome and we created an environment in it, and it created rain within the actual dome. We were able to accomplish that. So yes, I mean I'm sure there's some effect, but once again I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Can I welcome Stella is here.
Yes, of
Stella
course.
from welcome Stella.
Can you
We're
hear?
on chapter 7 of Bhagavad-gītā, and we're just about to read text 16.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay.
Text 16. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Is my phone going off? I'm trying to stop it and it's
Father
not.
Nanda, want to read a few?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his face steady so that he can devote himself to a particular deity. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. I am never manifest to the foolish and the unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. O son of, O Siyam of Brata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities, arisen from desire and hate. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahmin because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. Does that mean?
Oh,
Bob and I
better.
are feeding back, okay? So I'll just read the last one. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So that is this chapter. We've read it through, and there's quite a bit of information in here that we will just kind of go back over, okay? Are there any questions first? Does anybody have any questions regarding some of these verses that we just read?
I have at least one. What is the difference between inquisitive and one who is searching for knowledge of the absolute?
Well, I don't know that there would be a lot of difference. Inquisitive sometimes just means I'm a curious person. You know, I'm checking into different things. So that exposes you to different thought process for sure. You know what I'm saying? When I was trying to find God, I was looking everywhere for God. You know, I was looking in all different sectarian religions. I was reading Ouspensky, your chief. I was reading Cahill Gibran. You know, I was reading anything that I could get my hands on that had to do with God. I read the Bible, the Aquarian Gospels, the Essene Gospel. And so that inquisitive mind brought me to the Bhagavad-gītā as it is, ultimately. And that was about 50 years ago. And after reading Bhagavad-gītā as it is, I can say that all of my questions were fully answered. Specifically after accepting the spiritual master, which is recommended in Bhagavad-gītā, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and reading Srimad Bhagavatam and furthering my education by reading Isopanishad and some of the Puranas, the Ramayana, you know, like that. So there's many literatures that you can avail yourself, and then you can come to God in knowledge. Krishna says in here that the one that's the best is the one who comes in knowledge. So you may start out with inquisitiveness, or you may be distressed and go to God, dear God, help me. I'm in terrible distress. It's said, though, by Bhaktivinoda that, you know, you should go to God for everything. You should go to God for anything and everything. And if you're chanting your Hare Krishna Mahamantra and you're being offensive, or you have some desires, or you have no desires, or you have all desires, you should take all of that to God. Because God is the self-sufficient rewarder of all your desires since time immemorial. So since you were, well, you've never been created, but the body's been created over and over and over and is destroyed over and over and over again. So whatever your desires are, God is actually fulfilling that. And he describes that in this chapter very, very nicely. He says that many people go to the demigods thinking they can get rewards from the demigods. But the demigods are also influenced in the material world, which is time, space, birth, death, old age, disease. So whatever they give you is limited and temporary at best. And so God provides the demigods, or the angels, with all of their powers. So the other day we were talking about this down at the ISKCON farm. And we were saying, if you had in front of you a man with $1 billion willing to give to you, $1 million willing to give to you, and another man with 1,000, and another man with 100, and one other guy with $1, I mean, which one would you choose?
The $1 billion.
Of course. So why would we go to any lesser place to get what we're looking for? Krishna has everything. He's created all this. All created beings, are created by him. He's the origin and the dissolution of the material and the spiritual worlds in text 6 he describes. So there is no truth superior to Krishna. So why would we go somewhere else? Everything, even the demigods, the trillions of universes, they're all just like little pearls on a thread. And God is that thread, holding everything together. And he gives us ways to become God conscious. so that everywhere you go, hey, there's Susan. Hey, Susan.
Hi, Hare Krishna.
Good to see you. Good to see you. There were 30 verses in this chapter. We've covered them all. Now we're just giving a synopsis of the chapter itself. If you have any questions, stop us, or if you want to read something or make a comment, please let us know. We'd be very happy to have you.
Corey is with us as well.
Corey's here?
Yeah.
Yeah, Corey's here. Hi, sorry, hold on.
Oh, Corey, how are you feeling? You all right?
I am good. Just had a session that ran over, so I'm just trying to get my bearings and listen in for a little bit before I.
No problem. We're glad you're here. So if you guys have any questions as we recap the chapter, just let us know. All right. So in this particular chapter, this is knowledge of the absolute. So to know God is to love God. So if you come to God in knowledge, he says that's the best way to come. You can come in distress. You can be somebody wanting money. You may want wealth. You go to God for wealth. Or you may be inquisitive. You just want to know more. You can do like that. But to know God is to love God. So Krishna gives us an indication of what he is, where you can see him everywhere all the time and develop your consciousness of God, your God consciousness. So he says he's the taste of water. He's the light of the sun and the moon. He's the syllable Om in Vedic mantras, and he's the sound in ether, the ability in mankind. So if you see anything that's wonderful or spectacular or something someone's done, you can know that that ability actually comes from God, and it's a talent that was given to us that we need to use for God's glorification. If we don't, then we're kind of miserly, right? So it's like this. If I said, here's the keys to my house, come in, make yourself at home, have whatever food you like, use the bed, whatever the showers, whatever you want, you can have. But let's say you started just taking the pictures off the wall and you're taking the food out and you're loading it out in your car, right? Is that a very honest approach to do with someone who's being very generous with you? So if God is being very generous with you and giving you the light of the sun and the moon, I mean, how many times have we woken up in the morning, we saw the sunlight, and we're like, dear God, how wonderful. Or that moonlight at night that's shining. Or the taste of water when a person's thirsty. The original fragrance of the earth. Krishna says he's the original fragrance of the earth. So if you've ever smelled anything wonderful, you know that aroma, that fragrance was created in the mind of God. How genius must God be? Can we find any human that can be that intelligent? So that's why what we do is instead of taking the dollar from the individual we just gave that analogy with, or 1,000 from another, 1,000,000 from another, we go to the source of everything. We don't even go to the demigods for those things, because we know that God is giving that power to the demigods. And the reason they receive it is because they have aligned their will with the will of God. And so therefore they're responsible. Just like I was reading today, Srimad Bhagavatam is talking about Yamaraj. He knows everyone. He's got our clock. He knows when it's time to call you, when death comes for you. He never makes a mistake. It said he does not ever make a mistake. That was the actual passage. So the reason he doesn't is because he has the quality of God. He's got those qualities of God for that particular purpose. He's empowered for that purpose. We're all empowered for a particular purpose. So whatever talents we have, whatever knowledge we have, whatever beauty we have, whatever ability we have, whatever wealth we have, we should offer it back as a sacrifice to God and be conscious of God in all things. So Krishna's here saying that he's the heat and fire. When it's cold outside, do you appreciate the heat and fire? Of course. That warmth is so wonderful when a person's cold. It's relief. That relief comes from God. He says, Krishna says, I am the life of all that lives. Guys, come on. I'm the life of all that lives. So Krishna is your very life. The life that you have is given to you. He's the soul of your soul, the life of your life. And it says, go ahead.
Do we address why the material world and the modes of goodness, passion, or ignorance were created. Because he says, I think it was the verse I came in on, know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. Is it a test? Well, why?
All right. Simplistically, there's a spiritual world where we belong. We've decided to come here, okay, because we are seeking to be ourselves the most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful person. It's called envy. So, envy, anger, jealousy, madness, illusion, greed, these are all gates to this hell, which is a separated world from the spiritual world. So the material world is not your home, according to the Vedic literatures. You're actually a spirit soul. You're a fish out of water. And therefore, if you take a fish out of water, it may flap around a little while, but it dies shortly because it's not in its actual environment. This is not your environment. This material body that you're walking around in is not you. This is earth, water, fire, air, ether. Krishna just described that. So you've come here to be separate from God. You are seeking to be happy without connecting to the source of happiness. This is the inferior energy of God. And it's actually, Krishna says, time I am, the destroyer of all the worlds, and I've come to engage all people. So when you come to the material world, yes, you may get some separated sense gratification. You may have your own karma that you suffer and enjoy. But it's all temporary. It's all a dream. It's all an illusion. And then when you wake up and you actually become self-realized, you want to go back home. You want to be with Krishna. So these are just the things that come with this environment: birth, death, old age, and disease, ignorance, passion, and goodness. They're all affected. So what happens is the devotee wants to achieve what's called pure goodness, or Sudasattva. Sudasattva is pure goodness. Pure goodness means I do everything as a sacrifice for God. Therefore, I have no more business in the material world. So I don't know if that's a question.
So we were in the spiritual world with God, and the material world, well, I guess everything has always existed.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Everything, even time is eternal. The only thing that's not really eternal is your karma. You can change that.
So we just decided that, or maybe we thought, hey, I want to do what you're doing, or I want to be like you. And he said, okay, I'll create a place where you can give it a shot. Pretty much it.
Pretty much.
So why weren't we satisfied when we were there with him?
You have free
and if we
will.
weren't,
You have free will. Your free will can be used just like a knife can be used to cut an apple to feed someone or to kill a person. Your choice is your choice. All things are available to you. Love of God is a choice. Wanting to go back to the spiritual world is a choice. Wanting to stay in the material world is a choice. Any desire that you have is a choice that you make. It begins with thinking, and then feeling, and then willing. And as you will, then you're manifesting the karmic reaction that will take you to a new body and a new birth to give you the rewards of what you've desired. So all of these things are very carefully described by Krishna in the Bhagavad-gītā. And as you read through Bhagavad-gītā, we're just going through this one chapter, Knowledge of the Absolute. But as you go through this, you'll be able to have your light bulb kind of come on. You know, you'll see for yourself the answers that you're looking for. And by the association of devotees and groups like this, you know, you'll definitely be able to get some more insight. So I hope that answered your question.
it did. Thank you.
Okay, so Krishna says, I am the seed, the original seed of all existences. I'm the intelligence of the intelligence and the prowess of all powerful men. I'm the strength of the strong. Even sex life, that's not contrary to religious principle, Krishna is. Know that all states of being, be they goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifest by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So some people say, we just did this verse a second ago. Which one was it? This text 15, we chanted it. Namang duskritano mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya pritagyana asuram bhavam asrita. So in this particular verse, Krishna is saying that, but the miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender to me. So there's two kinds of people. And we've read the divine and demoniac qualities on one of these programs we did not too long ago. And we see that demoniac qualities are what? Greed, lust, anger, jealousy, all the things that take us into horrible karmic reactions. Okay? We know that greed can never be satisfied. Lust can never be satisfied. Krishna said it's like throwing wood on a fire. It just blazes even higher. So we have to quiet our senses. We have to quiet our senses, and we have to, by doing that, just like it says in the Bible, be still and know that I am God. When we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're actually being very quiet because we're absorbed in the names of God, which is the safest place in all the three worlds. It's the best place we could be, is absorbed in hearing God's words, chanting God's names, remembering God. And in that position, we become Krishna conscious and we elevate ourselves above the three modes. So no longer do we have to suffer taking a body. Like in the mode of ignorance, we see that animal life and all the degraded lives, aquatics and all this stuff, all they're doing is devouring, eating one another. That's basically all they're doing. And then human life is passion. Demigod life is goodness. But pure goodness, or Sudasattva, is transcendental. That is spiritual life. That is liberation. And you can have that even now, Krishna says in the previous chapter that we just read. So we can be pious, we can render devotional service, we can be distressed, we can be desire of wealth, we can be inquisitive, we can be searching for knowledge of the absolute. But whatever the position is, we must get God. We must reconnect with God. That's what we're here for. We're eternal parts and parcels of God. We can never be separated. We'll either be in his external energy, suffering birth, death, old age, disease, or we'll be in his internal energy, living a life of Satchidananda Vigraha, filled with ecstasy, knowledge, unlimited varieties of pleasure in a relationship with the supreme original person who is the most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful, yet renounced person. So Krishna says in text 18 that all of the people who come to God are certainly magnanimous, but those persons who come in knowledge, he considers to be just like his own self, of his own nature, and they become engaged in his transcendental service. They're sure to attain him, the highest and most perfect goal of life. So we have to first of all understand what is the highest goal of life. Most people don't know. A lot of people think that it's to get more money. Or the highest goal may be to have a more beautiful wife or better children or a prestige in society or fame. There's all these people that come to Nashville, Tennessee. There's thousands of them. They come here to become famous. They're seeking that fame. It's a passion. It's driving them to do austerities that are incredible. A lot of these people live out on the street. They have no money. They're working in, degraded situations. And they do that because they want fame so bad. If they wanted Krishna as bad as they wanted that, just think how great of devotees they could become. So somebody, somewhere, has got to tell them this story. And it needs to be us. We've got to share this story as we learn it. And it's not very difficult. All we have to do is repeat what we're hearing here. We don't have to make anything up. So Krishna says after many births and deaths, he was actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is, and such a great soul is very, very rare. So you souls that are on this call tonight are very, very rare. It's very, very rare that someone is actually seeking the knowledge of the absolute. But by doing it, you become extremely dear to Krishna, so much so that he regards you to be just like his own self. So you're becoming godly by associating with God. And when you chant God's name, you become alive with that energy, that Shakti that comes from God. And you become changed and transformed. Right?
Should you feel something there?
What was it?
Should you feel something there? Because I don't regularly chant, but I have many times. Sometimes in groups, it's enjoyable and it's fun. And I enjoy association, but just chanting on my own, I haven't felt any different when I do it.
It's like anything else. The more you practice, the better you become at it. So if you want to be an expert musician and you pick up a trumpet, for an example, and you go, hey, I'm not getting any satisfaction out of this, I'm blowing on it. Everybody's running in the opposite direction, you know.
Yeah.
So the point is you got to practice at what you do. It's called sadhana bhakti. Sadhana means the practice of loving God. Sadhana bhakti. But raganuga bhakti means that now I'm tasting the fruits of that practice. So like when I was in college, I was a musician, and you know, the more I practiced, the better I got, and finally I could play and I would enjoy it instead of it just being torture for me. You know, because when you're just practicing something and you're not getting all of what you're really after, which is the music, and you're doing all these arpeggios, these scales, and all this stuff, and you're going, what is this for? It's not that enjoyable. But it comes together at some point in your life, and then all of a sudden you're just blowing the music you hear in your heart and soul, and it's very, very pleasant. So in the same way, if you chant Hare Krishna, first of all, you should try to chant without offenses, and you should chant in the right mood. A lot of people don't chant in the right mood. The mood is just like a little baby crying for the mother, helplessly. Please, please, pick me up, protect me, you know, save me from this condition of birth, death, old age, and disease, and engage me in your service. Connect me back in yoga with our relationship. I need to know you again. I want to know you again. I want to love you again. I want to feel that love. I want to share in that love with you again. Just like sometimes a man or woman will see. Say it again.
Susan wanted to say
Okay,
something.
Susan, what you got?
Yes, can you hear me?
I do.
Okay, so just when our brother was talking about maybe sometimes he doesn't feel so different when chanting by himself as with the group, but something that could maybe help is thinking about, rather than it be sort of like a chore or a discipline or maybe something that doesn't help so much, but look at it as that's your time to spend with Krishna. That's your time to get closer to Krishna. And if you like imagine, you know, the most beautiful picture of Krishna, and that could be like your time to spend alone with Krishna.
I love that.
Okay.
That's excellent. As a matter of fact, if you go to YouTube online and you just put up japa meditation, it will pop up. If you look for Hare Krishna japa meditation, it'll pop up all these pictures, one right after the next, while you're chanting with some nice background, you know, meditative music if you like that. And then you can just look at Krishna while you're doing that. That's an excellent recommendation, Susan. Thank you.
I've added my prayers lately. I've never tried to imagine an image of God, but I have been asking him to show me himself, you know. So I try to focus on that because I've never seen him. You know, there's stories of people who've seen him who've gone blind. Very few people have seen him.
All right.
Show me himself.
That's pretty good. This chapter covers that with you. First of all, try to act in such a way that God will see you, right? Because you're the one who has separated yourself, and you're seeing God in everything you see. First of all, he's the light of the sun. He's the moon. He's the taste of water. I mean, these are ways you can see God now in this external situation. And then act in such a way that God would be very pleased with you and want to come to you. There's a, what was that song? I was going to tell you about that song. Oh, there's a song that I wrote a long time ago. It's called I Find You. It says, I see you here. I see you there. You're all around. You're everywhere. Deep in my heart, you're seated on a throne as the one true love, as the one true home, right? And it says, so you've got to be able to see that the life in your heart is actually given to you by God. He says, I'm the life of your life. So you're seeing God everywhere. And if you want to see pictures of God, you can do like Susan just recommended. And then that way, by meditating on that, you then become qualified for God to want to be with you. Right now, we're very offensive. We're in the lower modes of nature. We're very passionate. We're desiring things that are out of the will of God. So what we got to do is get ourselves lined up with the will of God. Just like Jesus Christ said, not my will, O Lord, but yours be done. So we have to know what God's will is, and we have to know what God looks like. You know, you can go to a lot of people and ask God down the street. You can say, what does God look like? Most people will tell you he's an old man with a gavel, sending everyone straight to hell. It's not a very lovable picture of God. So there's some misconceptions about God. And so what we have to do is find God in the scripture given to us by Sampradaya of thoroughly honest souls that have not changed or deviated the message. So that's why Krishna says in this one, unintelligent persons who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Lord, was impersonal before, and now I've assumed this personality. They do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So our job in this life as human beings is to get to know God perfectly well. And that way, Prabhupada says, he guarantees you can see God. You can stand before God. You can see God face to face. You can play with God. You can have your original relationship with God back, which is what you've been looking for. All these births and deaths, you're looking under every rock. Where is the happiness that my heart desires? And we think we can find it in a man or a woman or in a society or a group or a nation or some consciousness like that. But we may or may not be able to find it there, but we can definitely find it in these messages that are given directly from the mouth of God. Directly from the mouth of God. Krishna said these words, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I'm covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know me. They do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So let's say you want to be an atheist. Krishna will make your faith strong in being an atheist. If you want to worship a demigod, Krishna will make your faith strong to worship a demigod. Whatever it is you want, Krishna loves you so much, he wants to give it to you. As a matter of fact, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna says, my favorite pastime is fulfilling the desires of my devotees, of my children, of which you all are. That's his favorite thing to do. Brings him the greatest happiness to be able to do it. Now, he doesn't want you to want things that are not good for you, but he gives you the free will to do it. And he gives you that choice, because without a choice, there's no such thing as love. So, Krishna goes on to say, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arising from desire and hate. Okay, desire and hate. So you desire something and then it doesn't fulfill you and then you hate it. Right? That's what happens. You're just like little children. You know, I was watching this kid in the grocery store the other day, and the mother was trying to restrain the child. Its senses were going mad. It was trying to get this candy, that candy, this toy off the shelf. And the mom's going, no, I want it, Mom. She's screaming and carrying on. And we've all had these experiences with children. So the idea is the child doesn't know. He's born into delusion. He doesn't really know anything yet. He's got to be trained. Just like your mind has to be trained by your intelligence to tell the mind what's good, what's bad, what to do, what not to do, to keep you out of trouble and get you back home, back to Godhead. So that's the idea. Because this place is trouble. You don't know where you're going to go. You don't know what might happen to you. You don't know the pain and the suffering that can happen in the material world. There's great pleasure here too, but there's two sides to every coin in the material world. So we say, well, I like the heads, I don't like the tails part. Right? But sometimes you're going to get the tails. Sometimes you're going to get the heads. Right?
Definitely.
So Krishna then finishes up by saying intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death and misery take refuge in me, and they perform devotional service. He says they're actually already Brahman because they entirely know everything about these transcendental activities. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. So our minds have to become resolute in our determination, not many branched, not looking in all these different directions with all these speculative mental concoctions, but to hear these words out of the mouth of God that are meant for your ears and meant for your restitution. They're meant for your reconnection with God. And once you're in that connection, Krishna says, those who are in full consciousness know me to be the Supreme Lord, the governing principle of all material manifestation, of all the demigods, and of all methods of sacrifice. And they can understand and know me, the Supreme Lord, even at the time of death. So the idea is from the moment you're born, death is starting. Your death is coming. It's on the way. This body will be back again as earth, water, fire, air, ether. It'll be back into the material elements. This body is not you. The soul will pass on. But where will it go? That's your choice. Krishna explains that if a person remembers him at the time of death, he comes to him. Whatever you think of at the time of death, that you shall attain without fail. And why does he say that? Because your life is a culmination of efforts that you will remember at the time of death. You know, you've heard that statement that life passes before us at the time of death, right? Everybody's heard that one? So everything that you've done, the culmination of your work, your activity, all of that stuff comes to your mind at the time of death. Therefore, we practice to remember Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay? So, any other comments or questions about that?
I have a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
So talking about meditating on Krishna, Krishna teaches in Bhagavad-gītā that there's the nirguna and the surguna with and without qualities, and that those who try to meditate on him without will have more difficulty. Like if we try to meditate on like the mountain or something, but that if we directly think about Krishna and we find that form that we find melts in our heart, whether it's, baby Krishna, with Yashoda, or whether, whatever it might be.
Sure.
And then the other thing I wanted to say was talking about also when Krishna teaches, that which is once nectar becomes the poison. When you're talking about what's sweet, right? What starts with, and then it becomes the poison. And that's all. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the mode of passion. So in the mode of passion, everything seems so delicious at first, but it turns bad at the end.
Yes.
We see that in our own lives. When we go out for a passionate desire that we just got to have this person, we got to have this thing, we got to have this or that, that turns out in the long run to be our poison. But mode of goodness tastes like poison in the beginning, but nectar at the end, because it's an austerity, right? Ignorance is just poison from the beginning to the end. There's no relishable taste. But ignorance is somewhat a state of bliss because you just don't know. You're just numb, to it. But if a person then lives their life in a state of sacrifice means none of this belongs to me. I didn't create any of this. Who do I owe it to? I mean, I'm drinking some very nice lemon ginger tea. It's very nice with a little honey in it. Who do I owe that to? What a relishable drink. What a nice thing. Right? When I smell these flowers that are growing, these lilacs or whatever they are, I'm just amazed how beautiful that smell is and how happy it makes me feel. And Krishna gives us those things. So it's not hard to fall back in love with Krishna in one of the 5 different rasas. You mentioned a couple of them, right? Like Mother Yasoda, parental rasa, Vatsalya rasa, Sakya rasa, Dasya rasa, like all of these different relationships we'll talk about later as we go through the Gita. It's not hard to fall in love with God. Just like it's not hard to fall in love with one of God's creations. But if we become absorbed in that creation, that's a spark of God's splendor, and we could become deviant from that. We could lose our focus by becoming enamored by something within the material world. So if we see everything that comes to us as a gift from God, then our state of gratitude becomes overwhelming. And we will feel the type of joy and pleasure that you were talking about a minute ago, that you're looking for in your life. You will actually taste that pleasure. And it says, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā, we read earlier, it says, one may give up the desires of his lusty sense gratification, but the desire may remain. But by replacing it with a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So the higher taste has to come from this knowledge and this realization that comes from our soul of love of God. And it will happen in due course of time, I assure you. And when it does, Katie, bar the door, they say, Nothing can hold you back. Nothing can hold you back. And no one can convince you otherwise. Because that relationship will be so true and so honest and so beautiful and so just pleasurable that you will be living in the soul instead of just the material body, the senses of this cadaver that's meant to actually become the food of some other creature. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's get a higher taste, y'all. So we're gonna get a little higher taste right now. We're gonna chant for a few moments. All right?
Rock just had a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Where is the verse about nectar becoming poison?
It's not nectar becoming poison. What it is it's the 3 modes of material nature. It's in the Bhagavad-gītā. It's called 3 modes of material nature. And it's described in there, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. And
I meant the comment that Susan made.
the comment that Susan made is from the modes of material nature in the Bhagavad-gītā.
The modes of
Describing
material.
the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness. You can look up the chapter tonight and read it.
Okay. The modes of material nature is what it's called.
Modes of nature. 3 modes of nature.
Okay.
All right. Any
Chapter
other questions?
14.
What?
Chapter 14.
Chapter 14. Yeah, it'll describe that very clearly to you. Is that right, Susan? Did I comment correctly on your behalf? Okay, very good. All right, so we're just going to chant for a few moments and then we'll end the program. Can everybody hear this okay? It's harmonium? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sing it with me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Ganga Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hare Nitai Gaura Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Brock was asking if we ever see Krishna, and Krishna
day.
is present in his names. And when that melody is played, I just feel my heart just melting, and I just surrender. I'm just so emotional, and I really feel Krishna is there. You know, it doesn't happen with any other melody. My heart is too hard for that. For that one, it just melts my heart, and Krishna's there. So I see him in a way, and that I'm feeling he's there in his names as I'm crying out to him.
Well, that's the reason I did this one, because you said you like that melody. but everybody has a different melody that they like. And so when you find the melody that touches your heart, you know, it's just like Susan, you sing so many beautiful Hare Krishna melodies. And so some of those melodies just melt you inside. When you're singing them, you just get lost in that melody. So the same thing for every one of us. There's a song in our heart that we should offer Krishna. And that melody that touches you and makes you open your heart and just want to come to the Lord, that's the melody that is your melody. So everybody has one of those. And I have plenty. I have a lot of them that do it for me. But everybody's different because I love all these melodies, you know. But just choose the melody you like. And you were asking, do we see Krishna? Everywhere we look, we see Krishna. Everywhere we look, we see Krishna. We see Krishna in one another. That's why we say Namaste. We say Prabhu. We call you the master. We see that the super soul lives in your heart. God is there with you. We honor that. Now, for us to be directly associated with the Lord, they say to be absent of the body is to be present with the Lord. We've left the spiritual sky. Now it's our determination to go back. So when we leave the body, we have a chance now to remember Krishna. Yes, you will see Krishna face to face at that time. And, you know, you will need to have a clear understanding of what you want. So if we read the Bhagavad-gītā, because Krishna will give you anything you want. So
I want to do whatever.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to do whatever I was sent here for, and then go wherever I'm needed.
Well, that's a beautiful desire. Actually, that is very close to what the Bhagavad-gītā says when Krishna comes before these great souls. And he says, now that you've attracted my attention by your devotion, right? And you've done these wonderful things, let me come to you, he asked, what do you want from him? So you need to be sure that the response is that all I want is your love, and I want to fulfill your desire, whatever that might be, because you know what's best for me, and I surrender myself to you in your service. Please never let me forget you. Always let me remain engaged in your devotional service. So that's what we're chanting when we chant Hare Krishna. We're doing the same prayer. So if you do that prayer enough, you'll remember it at the time of death. You know, I had to be ready for some big recital. I had these songs I had to sing and all this stuff. And they said, you can't use the music. You have to be able to just memorize. So that's very difficult, especially when you got a lot of people watching you. You know, you might feel like you'd be very forgetful. So it does require a lot of practice. And I put hours and hours and hours of practice. And I still screwed it up.
Ah, man.
They didn't really know. I think they may not have known I screwed it up. But I knew I screwed it up. So, you know, that meant that I needed more practice. So that's what you need. You need a lot of practice. So we're going to practice chanting Hare Krishna together from here to the time we go back home, back to Godhead. So just be ready because we're going to be doing it.
All right.
All right. Is there any other comments or questions, guys? And I appreciate you so much for your time this evening. And you can always go back. This will be archived. And if you want to go back over the class, you can definitely do that. If you missed any of the front part, you can do that. Corey, did you have anything you want to add?
No, today I've just been all ears.
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Shravanam means to be all ears. Shravanam, and then Kirtanam means to then be all vocal. Repeat what you've learned. That's right.
Shravanam and Kirtanam.
Shravanam and Kirtanam. So that's the next stage. You know, you're going to fill you up with devotional love of God, and then you're just going to burst all over society.
I was born with Kirtanam in my soul, like, and hearing Pranavati talk, like, just the music, I can't stay stuck when I'm singing.
I love that. And that's the real engagement. The beautiful part of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the activities that's going on in the spiritual world. The spiritual world is a constant festival. That's what it is. Music, dance, feasting, you know, it's just happiness beyond your wildest imagination. And when we have a little taste of that here, it attracts us back to our original position in our spiritual life. So Bhakti Yoga is the actual transcendental process itself. like most yogas, you use them till you get to a certain point, and then you kind of discard it, and then you move to the next level. But you never discard bhakti yoga. This Sanatana Dharma is the eternal function of every soul. And that eternal function is loving reciprocation, not only with each other, but with the Supreme Person. And we do that by glorifying these beautiful melodies, by feasting. You know, this weekend we went to Murari Sevaka, we went to Murari Kirtan Sanctuary, we went to Diana and Morningstar. I don't know if anybody knows her. We went to her place. Everywhere we went, we're singing and we're feasting and we're having a blast. So my dear friend Eka Chakra Pran came in. I don't know if you know.
Oh, yeah, he was here. Oh,
Yeah. So we just had a constant party the whole weekend, and my throat's sore from singing so much. Because when we get together, we always sing and carry on. So we
And
started early.
feasting.
Huh?
Lots of feasting, lots of sushi.
Lots of feasting. Yes, we had a blast. So you guys are always welcome, and to come and join us. I think our next program is the first Sunday at Happy Go Yogi, where we can see each other in person if you guys want to. I mean, this is a nice way to visit, but you know, being able to embrace the Vaishnava and to get personal association is required. So if you guys can make it, make the trip. We'd love to have you, you know. Or we'll come to you. You let us know when you want to put something together and we'll come see you. All right? Anything else? Okay, namaste. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare. Signing off. Until next time, y'all.
bye.
Much love, okay? Bye-bye.